If we pay extra, could we maybe get some grease or fat?
Well, today is, what is today? Wednesday? Thursday. It's Thursday, right? Mm-hmm. Thursday,
April 21st.
April 21st. I just finished cooking another steak, ribeye, in my cinder grill. And you can see, once again, it came out perfect. Seared on top and bottom. Seared on the sides with flame torch. And the inside is perfectly pink. I love it.
Do you ever get sick of eating steak? I'm sure someone's asked you that before. Excuse me.
I have never looked at a steak and thought, I just can't eat another steak. Never, not once. I always love it. I have wanted things that are not steak, obviously. The hard part is overcoming those moments, like hearing the sound of a coffee maker finishing for me makes me want coffee. Smelling or seeing baked goods for the longest time made me want those baked goods. However, baked goods lately taste awful to me, and it doesn't matter what kind it is. It could have been something that I used to love, like a brownie, cookies I used to love. They taste disgusting to me now. It is so weird that I love them so much, and they taste so awful.
Like?
Tastes like dirt when I eat.
I know you tried
when I eat peanut butter.
You took a bite of that cookie and you spit it out.
Yeah, it's just
at Jesse's.
All I could taste was flour. It was like taking white powdery flour and putting it in my mouth. That's all I could taste. The sugar didn't even do anything to the flavor. And I tried it on a couple of different cookies over the past year. And each time, earlier, it didn't bother me as much, but my taste palette hadn't changed like it has now.
Out of all of the routines of this diet compared to some other diets you've done, also Atkins, I know you did that for a long time and lost weight. What's the most annoying thing about this diet?
Other people.
Do you really think in the overall though, because when you first start this diet, you think of all this preparedness you got to do, but now that you've been doing it for a year, do you think like, wait, this really isn't hard at all? Once you get that routine down, it only took you about a couple weeks.
Let's just say if I wasn't organized already, it would have been a lot harder. And even the things I'm organized with, like mostly with work issues, I'm organized, but when it came to preparing food or just getting through my normal non-work day, I was very disorganized. This forced me to be more organized because you got to plan ahead when you want to live on a meat diet, especially early on. When you need to be able to overcome cravings, you've got to have food ready that you can eat so that you won't cheat. And that takes preparation. And it's non-stop. Every day. One of the first things I think about is when and where am I going to eat today? It isn't a thought like, oh my God, am I going to have food? Thank God for that. But it's, okay, I got a couple hours before I got to be somewhere. That means if I'm going to cook it on my cinder grill, which takes, around an hour to fully make a steak to where it's perfect like this, then I got to plan ahead. But if I'm going to even use an air fryer, where it could take 15 minutes tops with prep time and everything, that's still 15 minutes you've got to plan for, because you don't get to cut corners when you got to be at work on time. You got to prepare for that. You got to have time to eat it. So, a lot of preparation. What was the question?
But now that you're on the routine of doing it, does it really seem as hard as it did like with eating beforehand? Before, when you get up, maybe have a half a bowl of cereal or oatmeal or something. Do you really see it now as when you did then during the transition period? Do you really see like it's really anything different than having to still make breakfast, lunch, and dinner, per se?
Yeah, in a way, because if you don't have something ready and you wait too long, like I did this morning, I wasn't ready to eat.
But you were in a rush to go anywhere.
Right, I was enjoying taking my time this morning. I didn't even feel like making something to eat, even though I knew I could eat, and that when I get hungry, I'm going to be ready to eat, and I won't have started anything. So when I started to feel that pang in my stomach saying, hey, I'm empty, then I had to start making something to eat. But I wasn't ready to make something to eat even then. So I grabbed a bag of Carnivore crisps and had a few of those, and that got me through that period. And then about an hour later, I finally started making something to eat. So because I have other things in place now, like Carnivore crisps, that helps.
Well, other people would too. They'd have a Nutri-Grain bar or a protein bar, but those are full of sugar.
Well, that's what I mean. On this diet, you got to have something that's
non-sugar.
Doesn't have anything but meat, water, and salt. For my diet specifically. And if you're carnivore, you got to have some. You at least can maybe have pork rinds, as long as they don't have any bad ingredients in them. You know, pork rinds is a good option.
Or paleo diet. I still like to have like a handful of really good salted cashews, or pistachios are probably my favorite. That's why I like to buy the mixed bag, is because I like the crunch and the saltiness, and I want to be able to just grab a handful of something on the fly. But the hard part is trying to find the ones not baked in the canola oil. That's the hard part. But if, like you did last time, you got them unsalted, which usually means they don't have the canola oil for some reason, maybe to help it make it stick. If you buy them unsalted, you can still add your Redmond salt on it as you go.
Well, they don't salt them unless they roast them, and they don't salt the nuts unless they roast them. And if they roast them, they're going to use canola oil or palm oil or some other vegetable seed oil. That's what makes those really bad for you.
Is get them unsalted so you can salt them yourself.
For me, I'm just trying to go strict carnivore because I think that's what I do the best on my gut.
Right.
And it upsets me because I'd like to be able to add coffee back, and I sometimes still have an occasional cup of coffee. But then I get a little hiccup of a problem, and I think, it had to have come from the coffee. But I don't know for sure that it came from the coffee. Like I've been dealing with this issue with my bladder that I didn't understand, because nothing about my diet should be affecting my bladder, except possibly some digestion issues that come from doing OMAD without a gallbladder. So for a while now, about a month now, I've believed that was the source of the problems that I was having from January to throughout February, beginning of January throughout February. But then I was reading about carbonated water having an effect on the bladder specifically. But everything I've read about it is very vague, as if the doctors don't know for sure what's going on. Like they say that it's in one article it'll say it's not anything but the caffeine that's causing the bladder issues. And then in another one it'll say carbonation might be causing the problem, but they don't know for sure. And then in some articles it says the carbonation's even good for you, especially if it's naturally carbonated, or naturally bubbly. I guess that would be naturally carbonated. But this thing with my bladder, I don't have an answer on it. I'm just trying to go based on what's happening. And it might be congenital, it might have nothing to do with the diet at all, except that I've lost a lot of weight, and now the stuff in my body is in a different place. I remember I told you that mostly because I wanted to be able to say that the hardest part of the diet for me is when something isn't going exactly right, figuring out what the source of the problem is. Because all the detractors from a meat diet instantly want to jump on too much protein, not enough this, not enough that, not enough phytonutrients, which you only get from vegetables. But yet so many people have done well eating no phytonutrients, no vegetables at all. So, and I've done great for 15, almost 16 months now. Just this one hiccup with the bladder issue, which I can't pinpoint where the problem is.
And if doctors can't pinpoint where it's coming from either, then you can't say that it's because of the diet. Because the answer could be so ambiguous. It could be, like you mentioned, genetics. It And it's like, well, that doesn't have anything to do with the diet. So if they can't pinpoint what causes it, then...
And I was having digestive issues before I started the diet,
Yes,
too.
you were.
Now they're similar. They feel similar in some regards. In some ways, they're a little different. Like, I had the constipation issue beforehand, but this is not normal constipation. It isn't constipation at all because I don't have anything to go. I've been scanned after I thought I was constipated, and I had nothing in my bowel. No stones anywhere, no stones in my bladder, no stones in my kidneys, and no waste material build up. It just felt like I had to go. And the only thing they said was that you have an enlarged bladder, and it could be congenital, could be from birth. But they don't know why. The only thing another doctor was able to tell me about it is the only worry is it emptying all the way? Well, I haven't had any issues with it not emptying all the way. It's just slow about emptying. And I have to go often. So that's another thing that makes me think maybe I should try something other than the carbonated waters, although I love them. And they're far healthier than what I was drinking before, which was, sugared drinks with all kind of ingredients in them, whether they were sugar or sugar substitutes. Regardless, they weren't as healthy as just plain water would have been. And a lot of them had sugars from fruits and dextrose and maltodextrose and just so many things that I don't ingest anymore that it's hard to say, yeah, it's got to be my carbonated water. But there's a couple of reasons why I want to look into it. One, carbonated water is more expensive than regular water. And if I can curtail the cost, then that's a good thing. It's just whether or not I can live without my carbonated waters. Or if I can live with cutting them in half or cutting them down to a third or whatever they should be.
One thing you do know for sure, though, is that you definitely feel better. Mentally, physically.
Psychologically speaking, I couldn't have kept going the way I was going.
No, you couldn't have.
I don't think I would have lived to now.
No, I don't either. I really don't. And if you were still alive, it would not have been a quality way of life. It would have been a very painful existence for you and everyone around you. And I'm not saying that lightly. I'm saying that with brutal honesty, that having lived with you while you were going through that pain, it was hard. It was extremely difficult mentally. But that's why I encouraged you the whole way. You do what you need to do because there's so many questions. I didn't have an answer. No doctors didn't have an answer. No one had an answer for you. So you had to make a decision and stick with it to see what worked for you.
Yeah, and it has worked. Now what was debilitating and making me contemplate life outside of this life is nothing more than a minor irritant occasionally.
Yep.
So that's a heck of a step in the right direction. I'd love to say it was completely healed my digestive system, but I'm clearly still dealing with something.
Right.
And my body reacted so well to it early on, I felt like it was gone, but...
Well, even after you have a broken leg and it's fixed, you
About-
have the remains of the scars and the swollen, and your leg might get more tender now. You can't put as much stress on it anymore, It's like we heal, but sometimes the scars remain from those, and if nobody knows what it is and it's nothing catastrophically urgent for them to attend to, like stones, then maybe it's just from us destroying our body for the last 30, 40 years. We have to live with the remainders.
Yeah. Well.
Old injuries, you talk to football players, they'll say, oh, I still can't feel my left shoulder, or yeah, my toes are constantly numb. We have to live with these things at some point, and there's just nothing we can do about it. Unless we have, obviously, millions of dollars for certain types of surgery, but then there's still no guarantee.
Yeah. You don't need millions of dollars. You just need the right job with the right insurance and a lot of other things. Healthcare in this country has gone bananas.
It costs someone thousands and thousands of dollars, even for you to get a surgery that may or may not work. And you could end up worse than what you started up with.
There's one thing for sure, is I exercise a whole lot more. And even yesterday, after driving out to Mount Plymouth, then driving to Orlando, then coming back from Orlando, and then coming back from Mount Plymouth, spending what's that? 8 hours of my day on the road, and another few hours in meetings and things like that.
Yeah.
You get home, it's like, oh, I don't want to do anything. My brain wants to rest. I want to rest. I get home, it's almost dark, but it's like, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get at least my 100 squats that I challenged myself to do for 30 days. Some days I don't get to go walking, and I just didn't have the energy to go walking, but I still got my squats in, you know?
I got my squats in yesterday.
I used to be able to make excuses on not working out for months at a time, and then have one sporadic exercise along the way, and then go months again without it. Now it's the opposite. I have a sporadic moment of not exercising.
Sam barking. Or just Sam.
And even then, I try to make up for the exercise I missed. So this was kind of a random, impromptu way to do our video today, because normally I would have recorded it while I was walking last night and put it into video form already. But I wanted to be able to get something out for you to show that I'm still on my 30-day challenge here for the squats, which has done really amazing work for my legs and definition and flexibility, for also my hip flexors and my abs. I feel it right here in my sides when I do those squats real deep. So I'm so thankful to have had this challenge, and I want to be able to keep these as part of my routine, even if it's every other day. It's just hard to fit every exercise you want to do in an exercise routine without becoming the exercise guru, or that's their only focus in life. So it's just good to be able to keep walking, and to do a few extra things like some squats, some push-ups, some pull-ups, some dips or leg lifts, and keep everything moving so they can stay healthy. So that's going to do it for today. I'm done eating. I'm done with this video. I'll see you next time.
If we pay extra, could we maybe get some grease or fat?